Okay, welcome to another video. Today is going to be part two. We're kind of phase two, level two, if you will, building from the last video, looking at how you can use Fusion to update, mass update tasks based on, or mass update projects based on an update or change to a template. So we're gonna start from scratch, basically. We're building on the fundamentals of the last video, but I want to just kind of start from scratch when building this to show you each step of the way and show you exactly how that works. So first, from a high level, what we're going to be looking at is um, adding a new task to this template, and then using that to go in and update basically all the projects from that template. So um, I have a few in this demo portfolio, if you remember from last time. Um, I think these example projects, I think these are all from the same template. No, this is a different one. Anyways, there's multiple in here. We're gonna go add another one as well. Um, but yeah, the point is that let's say I want to make a change, like I said, add a task here, under here, then go update all the projects that we have live. So let's get into it. Um, so let's start here actually, and let's look at what task we want to add. So let's just add a new task right here, and let's call this internal team meeting. It's going to be after the stakeholder. We're planning it to take 2 hours. Then this is a new view I've added called template update, and we're going to say add because we're adding this task. And I've made it so it's super clear visually to see, hey, this needs to be done. Just to show you, I've also have delete. So let's say I want to delete a task um, or update, meaning um, we're making an update, right? So it's, we're changing this from being 2 days to 5 days, changing a predecessor, whatever. We need to make an update. We mark it as update. In this case, we're going to leave it as add. This view just makes it really easy from an admin perspective for you to come in and see, okay, this is what needs to happen. I know what I need to do. You make that change. Once you've made it, obviously you come back in here and you would mark that as done, basically. You would deselect it, and then you know that has been taken care of. So in a separate video, I'll show you exactly how I built this view and to add the template update column and make it so you could um, edit that in and visually see it easily. So that'll be another video. You can check that out. Okay, but let's dive into the Fusion side now. So similar to the last video, we're actually going to start with a tools. We're going to use a set multiple variables, and I'm just going to delete this real quick. Um, and so what we're going to want to do is just, this is not a necessary step, but it can help just make it a bit easier for organization. Um, and when you're wanting to, you'll see later on why this is beneficial, but it makes it so you're basically able to, when you're changing, for example, the template task ID, which is going to be the task you're changing, editing. In this case, we're adding a new task. So instead of going in and having to make sure you accurately change it in each module that's its reference, you just change it here and then reference it in the other modules from this first variable. So that way it's referenced and you know what you're doing. So we can just, in this case, go here. And I also, in this view, I have the template task ID here and the parent ID. Um, so I'm just going to save that. The reason I clicked here first, so let me copy that, is you'll notice if you just try to copy it, it won't work. Um, you can click anywhere. But then also, I always make sure to drag my mouse over a little bit. You'll notice if I just go here, it kind of unselects. So just a little tip. Again, it doesn't matter which one. I just selected this to make sure I'm editing that row. And then when I highlight, just drag it over to the column next to it. So that way I can actually copy it. Just a little side note. So that's going to be the template task ID. I'll save that. And then here, I'm going to put the template ID. Again, we're making this reusable, this scenario reusable, so that way, you can just modify what template you're referencing, modify the task, and then reuse it, rinse and repeat for whatever change. So I'll get that template task ID. And then the last thing I'm going to add here is I'm going to add this above task name. Um, so basically, I'm going to get the name of the task above it. There's different ways you can go about this. I just kind of use this as a check when I'm doing the order of the task, is I look at the task above it and say, okay, it's going to be this task, basically that task number plus one to make it the next one. There's a couple options there, but yeah, I'll show you how this way of doing it, and then if you need to look at a different option, you can. Okay, so now that we have the variable set, we're gonna the next one. I'm just gonna rename this as template task update. Is what I'm gonna call this. Okay. Now for our next module, we're going to be using a custom API call. Okay. And so what we're doing here is we're actually going to be getting the tasks from the template. Um, and then basically what we're going to do is we're going to get all the tasks, and then we're going to get a list of all the ones that we don't want to edit. Um, Basically, we're going to exclude all the tasks but one, which is the new task that we're adding in this case. So we're going to get that list. So then we can reference it later on to basically say, okay, exclude everything but this task and add it, which it will make a bit more sense here in a bit. Okay, so we're gonna do that. It's gonna be a get, and then let's go down here to the query strings for the first one, the fields, basically the outputs. We want the ID. We want the task number. We're going to want that task update field that I added, or that just show you this ta or template update is what I have it called. Um, Not task update, and then the template update field. Yeah. We'll add a limit here. Just do 100. We're going to add, bring in now the template ID. And here we're going to reference the template ID. And then we're going to do the mod is in, basically saying we want it to equal the template ID. Next, we're going to do the uh, template task ID, which in this case, versus the key is ID and then template task ID. And then we want it to actually be here, not in, because we're getting, again, the exclude list. So basically, we're getting all the tasks except this one. And then here, we're going to do task number sort, and then ascending, basically just keep it in order, ascending order. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that is looking good. So let's save that, and then let's just rename this as excluded template task. So we know what this is doing. Next, we're going to add an iterator right here, and then we're going to be getting the data from this module. which in this case is module 2. Okay. Now let's move on. And next step, we're going to be doing another tool, another set multiple variables. And I'll show you why in just a sec. Let's add here variable name. We're going to call this ID. And then we're going to get the ID from the iterator that we just set up. So we need to go get that. So that the problem is it's not going to come across yet because we haven't ran it. So before we do that, let's just unlink this. And let's just run it real quick. Make sure everything's set up correctly. It's a good test. And that should get us the ability to reference the ID from the iterator. Conversely, we could have kind of written it, hard coded it, um, and then it would have referenced it later on once that field came in. So let's give it just a sec, let it run. Okay, perfect. So it ran, no errors. That's always good. And now we have the ID. So if I reconnect it here, let's edit this. Now you notice we have the ID, so we can reference that. Again, we could have hard coded it, but it's easier. And well, it's not hard to code it either, but um, that way you're sure that you've mapped it correctly. Okay, so now that we have the ID, now we need to do actually an array aggregator. So let me show you this. So let's put this here. Um, and this, all right, source is going to be the iterator here, 3. We can leave that as custom. And then um, we want this tools set multiple variables, which is this one for um, we want the ID. So let's just real quick show you what's going on here. Let's run this just so you can kind of see what's happening. So it got the excluded template tasks. So let's go here. So it got 21 tasks, which if we look at the template, there's 22. So that makes sense because we're not getting this new one, right? So that 22 minus 1, 21. So that's correct. And then it iterated through all those and gave us the ID for each of those. So let's look at this one, 66737. Then ends BB0. Right there, 66737 ends BB0. The next one will be ending B1EF. If we look at bundle 2, right there, B1EF. So yeah, basically just showing you what's going on. It's getting all these IDs, minus it won't get this one, right? So it's skip number 4. It gets all those IDs. And then now here, as an aggregator, it's basically, so we had to iterate to get all of them, and now we're putting them all together. So all of them, boom, 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 all 21, which again says there. So yeah, it's the array of all of those. Okay, perfect. So again, the reason we're doing all this is because we're getting that list of exclude to basically then know what to include. Um, it sounds complicated, but it's not. Again, it likes to just follow along. Um, okay, so next we're going to do another set multiple variables here. Okay, so now let's add the information here. So this is going to be the exclude list because that's what, again, we're taking that array, and we're basically creating the variable for it. And then for the value, we're going to use map here. And then we're going to use that array um, right here. And then ID, because we're wanting the IDs, right? So we'll add that. So that's our exclude list. And let's just rename this as the exclude list variable. so we know where it's set. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to, that we've set all this up, now we're going to go get the projects that we're going to want to edit or change. So we're going to do another custom API call here. Okay. Um, and then we're going to do a task search because the way, so I know we're getting projects, but we're going to be looking specifically for the project, or we're getting the project by looking for a specific task, specifically the task above the task we want to add in this case. Okay, so it's going to be a task search, get, and then let's go down here and go to the query string and add our outputs. So we're going to want the ID, which is going to be the task ID. We want the project ID. We want the parent ID, which is again parent task ID. We want the task number. And then we can bring in the project status. This is just a best practice in this specific example. It's not really going to matter because we don't have that many projects, and then the task status. But in a real world scenario, you might want to know which, exclude complete projects. For example, wanting to try to update them because it'll error out if you're trying to update the complete project, or you don't want to update, cancel projects, whatever, or you're only wanting to update plan maybe, and not even current. But anyway, so bring that project status and then the task status. Okay, so those are all the fields we're going to be outputting. I'm just going to open this a bit bigger. Um, and then always add the limit. And in this case, we can make it 100 again. Okay, next, we need the project template ID. Okay. Um, so this is going to be this, right? The template ID, because it's the project template ID, not the template task ID. Okay, so project template ID, and then we're gonna need to do this again in mod, and then say in. Okay. And then again in this specific demo, this isn't gonna matter, but just to show you, we're gonna filter out where the project status is complete. So we'll just do project status complete, and then project status mod is not in, meaning it's not complete. Perfect. Okay. We're going to bring in here now the name, which is a task name, and that's going to be this because we're using that as the reference of knowing where to put it, based on the number that this task is. So name is that, and then name underscore mod contains. That way we're bringing all of them, and because we just said equal, it could have an issue where it only bring in one, like the first one that equals that. So we're using the CI contains. And then just to kind of as a safety to make sure we bring in the right task, we're going to bring in the task number. And then I'm just gonna hard code it. We could also put this as a variable at the front. Um, but we're bringing, because this is the task we want to bring in, right? Because we want to bring the task above the one we're adding. So that's the name, and that's the number. So we're gonna say the task number is equal to 3. And equals. Okay, perfect. That I believe is everything. Okay. Um, so this is going to be, let's just rename this as get projects to change. And let's save this. And then we can just run this real quick. We're not doing anything yet, just getting it, and then it's going to get the projects. So we're totally fine to just run this, and we're not worried about making any changes or messing anything up in Workfront yet. Perfect. So that ran smoothly. Let's see how many. So there's two projects, right? Currently in our instance based on this specific template. So we have this demo project for YouTube video, and we have this implement new project intake project. So those are the two projects. It brought in the task, so stakeholder identification and racy, stakeholder identification and racy. Okay. So perfect. So that brought those in, just so we can double check. That's bringing this in, which is the and then double check that, but that's the task we were wanting to bring in. So that's all looking good. So good news. Next is going to be another iterator real quick, and this is going to be getting the data from the previous module. And then we are almost done. Just a few modules left. So now we got the project, so now we need to add the task. So basically, the next steps we're going to finalize by doing is add the one task. In this case, add it could also be edit, or it could be well, delete. You don't need to use Fusion to delete it, but it could be modify, or no, I'll use the same terminology I use in the view. It could be update, or it could be add. So in this case, we're adding. So now let's do a miscellaneous action right here. This is a module we're going to use. Um, and you'll see why. So the record type is project. Then the action is going to be attach template. Okay. Because again, we're attaching this task from the template to the project. Um, and then the project, so then this is, mapping where we want the iterator, which is going to be the project ID here. The template ID is going to be, again, right at the very beginning, template ID, predecessor task ID, we can leave blank, parent task ID. We're going to want the parent ID here. And then this is where we use that exclude template task ID. So we're actually going to map this. And then we're going to go find our exclude list, which is right here, exclude list variable. We're going to click that. So that's why we needed to do all those first steps to get the list of which ones we're excluding. I just wanted to pause and maybe explain something. You might be wondering, well, why can't I just, go in, right, and manually like add the task, or make a report and add a new task and to these projects, which you could, but the problem you would have, the biggest problem is it wouldn't have the correct template ID. And so in some instances that might not matter, but in a lot of cases, you want to make sure that all the tasks on your projects match the tasks on your template. Um, and how this and that the template task ID is the same. And that just makes it so much easier, cleaner for any time you're needing to in the future make any additional changes, modifications, reporting. You can always know that if you're looking for that specific task, you can always reference the template task ID, and it'll be the same across all projects. Um, so that's why we're needing to do it this way, where we're adding the template, and then we're just basically excluding every other task on that template. So when we attach that template, it only does the one. Hopefully that made sense. So that's going to be, let's just rename this as add the template task because that's what it's doing. Okay, so we have that. So now it's going to add it, and we can test this real quick. And so what it's going to do? So at this point, it's mostly done. At this point, it will go and add the new task, and it'll put it in your projects, and it'll even put it in the right place. That's why we reference the number up above, or sorry, we reference the above number here. And yeah, so let me run it and let me just show you what the issue still is, and why we're not quite done. There's still just a few more things we're going to add. Um, so if I go here, and I'm just going to refresh. So it added that right here, internal team meeting. I put it in the right spot, so that's great. But you notice there's no predecessor. So on here, the predecessor is task 3, right? Yeah, task 3. Um, but there's no predecessor here. And so that's a pain, right? Like you want to make sure you have your predecessors. So at this point, you could create a report depending on how many projects there are. You could create a report, bring in this task, create a task report, bring in this new task, um, and then, kind of manually update the predecessor of all those tasks. But that's not ideal. And why would you do that manually when you could just add a few more modules here and have Fusion do it for you? Okay, so we've added it. So basically now what we're going to do is get that new task that we just added and update it with the predecessor. And um, in order to do that, you have to update it with everything, really. But um, we'll update it to get the predecessor. So next is going to be a custom API call. And this is going to be a task search because we're going to be getting that new task. It's going to be a get. And let's go here, fields. Again, the output, we're going to want ID, template, task ID. We want the name. We want the task number. And I believe that's everything we're going to need. Let's just add the limit again. Um, for testing purposes, let's say you wanted to test this and you're wanting to run it with just one, you could go back on one of these limits and make it one. And then it would limit it to just the first one. Yeah, so now we need to get the project ID. And this we're going to get from the iterator right here, project ID. And then we're going to say mod, and we're going to say in, so it equals that. Okay. Now we're going to do task number sort, and we're going to make this ascending again. Okay. And then we're actually going to bring in here the template update field, which is in the view on the template. Add, and then template update mod in. So when it equals add, and let's save that. And this is going to get rename. This is getting the get added template task, or tasks. I'll rename it because it's getting all of them from here. Okay, another iterator right here. And we're going to be getting the data from here. So body data. Perfect. And then now we're going to need a JSON. Okay, so we had JSON, and then we're going to do aggregate to JSON. It's going to be the source is going from the one right in front of it, which is 11. For data structure, it's actually none of these. We need to add a new one. So it's add, and then we're going to call this full task update. Um, Basically, we're going to bring in the fields for updating the task. So let's go in. I'm just going to build this real quick, and I'll speed it up as I build it so you don't have to sit there and watch too much. Okay, so now that has been added. Um, so now we just got a map. I added, with it being a full task update, I added probably more than I needed to for this video, but um, but yeah, I'll just map what is relevant. Okay, so we need the ID, which is going to be coming from um, this iterator, which we don't have it yet. So let's actually save that, and let's well, we can just run it. It's going to error out here. Okay, well, it didn't error, but it just is all empty. But now we have the information that we need. Okay, so now we can get the ID, which would be this. The name would be the name there. Um, or this would be if we're assigning it to someone, object code. We do need to make sure and map that. Duration. We have the duration right now as 1 day, so let's map. Well, let's make sure we have that. Parent ID is going to be the parent ID. We have it here. Priority, you're not going to worry about. Category ID, that's custom forms. We don't have any. Well, do we? We have the additional task details. We have this custom form. Um, so we can add, if we want to make sure and keep this custom form attached to that task, we'd put in the category ID. In order to get this, we can go, let me just show you how to get that real quick. Let's go here, let's go to custom forms, additional task details, and it's right here. That's one way to get it. You could also pull report and then bring it in that way. That's the category ID, task number. So this is going to be this task number, and then we need the math, and we're going to go +1. So that makes sure it puts it in the right place. Basically saying this task number, which is 3 plus 1, so it makes it 4. So make sure it goes right back in the right spot. Assigned to, we don't have it assigned. We don't have it assigned to anyone, but if you had it assigned to someone for a role or something, you'd put that in. Um, Duration type, a duration plan duration. We'll also put that as 1. And then we have predecessor expression. So this is where we'll put it as 3 as the predecessor expression for making sure it's referencing the right one. Then we can leave plan duration and plan start date. We can leave those blank. So that basically structured all the data for that task. And then the last module we have here is going to be basically updating that task. Let's do another custom API call here. And then this is going to be task. This time it's going to be a put. And then basically we're going to just take the JString body and that's it. Now let's save that. And let's just rename this as final task update. Um, let's rename this as task details. And let's save that. Now let's go over here and let's delete this real quick. Oh, that's because it was ran twice. Let's delete this again. Okay, so now let's just make sure or refresh it. So now we're back to the 20. We have 25 tasks, but oh, because it has. Anyways, we got these here. Task 3 is this, and then it jumps that. So now let's run this. It goes through and completed. Let's go over here. Let's refresh. And now this time it's back in the right spot and it has the predecessor. Um, so yeah, that's it. Um, so that's how you can use Fusion to update use Fusion to update the projects from the template whenever you make modifications to the template. So in this case, it added it. So now I could come in here and deselect that because it say, okay, this new task has now been added to all the projects. In this case, all 2 of them, and it is good to go. So yeah, so then basically the same process when it comes to making an update. You would just obviously modify a few things here, but then this you make the modifications to the task details to whatever the new whatever the update is, right? And then if it's delete, you don't need Fusion. Just create a report, pull in the task using the template task ID, which going back to why it's so important to make sure the template task ID is always accurate and matches across all projects. You can pull it in pretty easily via report, and then just do a mass delete and get rid of all of them. Then once you would do that, you'd go in here and just delete it the from the template as well. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully, you found that helpful and it'll be useful and it will save you tons of time as well. So yeah, look forward to seeing you on the next video.